Welcome to our second lesson on how to do tree banking using the Perseids platform in the Arethusa environment. Today I want to concentrate on syntax. Now, we've already seen this sentence in the previous video. If you don't know how to log on and open a sentence and treat the morphology of the sentence, see the introductory, part 1 of this sequence. In this movie, as I say, we'll be concentrating on syntax. Now, as you see, as I scroll across the top, word by word through the sentence, the pane on the right side shows that morphology has been added for each of these tokens or items. Agricola is a noun, singular masculine nominative. Filio is a noun, singular masculine dative. Aurum is a noun, singular neuter accusative. David is a verb, form of do, third singular, future, indicative, active. Alright, so now I just want to deal with the syntax. What do you do word by word? Well, there are many approaches. Basically, as sentences become longer, you'll have to develop different strategies. But at this stage of the game, when sentences are relatively short, starting with the main verb is, I think, the best approach. And here, it's obvious what the main verb is, of course. It is David. It's the only verb in the sentence. So either you can click on David and highlight it, or you can use the W or the E keys to move along until David is highlighted. As it's highlighted, then notice I put my cursor over the little root in the working space, and if you can see, next to the arrow, which is my cursor, a little plus symbol appears. And that means that the attachment function is activated, and that when I click, left click, David will appear attached to the thing that my cursor was hovering over. Alright, so there we have David, and we say to ourselves, okay, David has been added as the main verb. Let's label it as such. You see the label for its function in the sentence is now listed as nil. There is no label, in other words. So we go to the Relations tab over here, we click it, and this gives us a list of possible relationships. So once again, we select David, and then we're given a highlight. The word David itself occurs here. It's at 1-4, meaning it's the fourth token in the first sentence in the file. We look down here and say, where is main verb? Well, it happens conveniently to be the first entry. And there, I click on it, and now you see instead of nil, it says main verb. Here again, it's a good idea to say frequently. Alright, let's look. Agricola is nominative. Nominative, oh, I can't remember what in the world is nominative. It's on the tip of my tongue. It must mean something. Subject, if you recall. Subject is the frequent meaning of a nominative noun. What is a subject? Again, I like to avoid, as you may know, semantic definitions of what a subject or any other syntactic feature is, any other syntactic relationship. I don't think semantic explanations for syntactic relationships are very easy and very useful, and they can be confusing. So, for our purposes, a subject is a dependency, it is an argument, it is a function of a verb. And so, the rule is that a subject must hang from a verb. It can't hang from a noun, for example, or an adjective. Adjectives don't have subjects. Nouns don't have subjects. So we have only one verb in this sentence. And so, again, I move my cursor to hover over Dobbit, either there or up at the top, and you see the little plus appears. And I click on the left mouse button, and now Agricola has been added as a dependency of Dobbit. And that's good, because a subject is a dependency of a verb. And now, likewise, we go to the right pane, and we pick SBJ for subject, and we save our work. Filio, if we look at Filio's morphology, we remember that it's a dative. What does a dative do in a sentence? It's an indirect object. What is an indirect object? An indirect object, again, to eschew and avoid semantic explanations, is syntactically an argument, a dependency of a verb. It's a function of a verb. And so we hang it from a verb, the only verb we have here, and we move to relation. We find a tag for it, indirect object, and we place it on the word, on filio, in the position, and the relationship is now tagged. We move on one more, and we have aurum. Oh, I don't remember what aurum could possibly be. But fortunately, we've made notes. We've annotated it. And so the information is available to us. We just look back to morphology, in the morphology tab, and we see that it's accusative. An accusative, if we rack our brains, accusative must mean something, I'm sure I've heard. Oh, it's the object of a preposition. That's right, the object of a preposition. But wait, there's no prepositions in this sentence. This seems to cause trouble. Anything else that an accusative can be. Accusative can be a direct object. And a direct object, again, is a dependency, an argument, a function, if you will, loosely speaking, of a verb. And so it's very easy to do this. We don't have, once we remember that it's a function of a verb, in a sentence like this, the right answer follows without further thought. Again, we want to label the relationship that we've identified. Syntax trees are labeled graphs, and therefore we look for direct object. There it is. We save, and we have now our analysis. Your last step is to turn your analysis into a translation. Analyses are very interesting in their own right, and it'll allow you to understand the structure of the Latin even without thinking about the translation. But of course, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and it will also help you translate, especially as the semester progresses and you're dealing with longer sentences. At the beginning, it may seem like a hindrance because you can translate this sentence pretty easily simply by knowing the meaning of the individual words. You just use your raw computing power of your brain to figure out what of the small number of possibilities is the best one. But as sentences get more complicated and more difficult, and Latin sentences can be quite complicated and quite long, the kind of sheer computational power approach would no longer work. So it's best to rely on structural and an analytical approach. So in English, we definitely we will start a sentence perhaps with the subject, which is indicated by a position immediately before the verb, farmer. Farmer and the verb Dobbit. Farmer will give. Farmer will give, and then the direct object immediately follows the verb without intervening prepositions and so on. Farmer will give gold. Farmer will give gold. And filio, an indirect object, usually expressed most conveniently in English by 2 or 4 plus the lexical meaning of the word. So the word means son, filios, so farmer will give gold to son. Farmer will give gold to son. It does sound a little bit like it's spoken by a Muppet, Cookie Monster, or what have you. So, of course, as you know, you want to add the appropriate polish, as it were, in English, and this will consist of possessive adjectives, definite or indefinite articles. So something like a farmer will give gold to his son, or perhaps better, the farmer will give gold to his son. But it's also possible that it's the farmer will give the gold to his son. These things can only be made clear through context, and of course in these exercises there's no additional context. All right, that ends this brief introduction to up and running with syntax on the trees. We will have more complicated examples in further movies, and we will also discuss various syntactic questions. Our next clip will be about how to use the feature in Arethusa which allows you to see if you're going astray, which allows you to check your version of the sentence against a prepared gold standard to help you when you're in a jam. So tune in next time. Meanwhile, stay out of the ditch.